Welcome to our video on the Harlem Renaissance, one of the most influential cultural movements in American history. In the 1920s and 1930s, Harlem, New York became a hub for African American writers, artists, musicians, and intellectuals. This period gave rise to a vibrant expression of Black identity, creativity, and social change. From the powerful poetry of Langston Hughes to the jazz music of Louis Armstrong, the Harlem Renaissance shaped modern American culture and continues to inspire artists today. Let's explore the key figures and contributions of this remarkable era. The Harlem Renaissance emerged due to a combination of social, economic, and cultural factors. 1. The Great Migration. Between 1910 and 1940, millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to northern cities like New York in search of better job opportunities, education, and escape from racial segregation and violence. 1. Harlem became a cultural hub for this growing community. 2. World War I. Many African Americans served in the war, and their experiences overseas fueled a sense of pride and desire for equality when they returned. 2. They sought to redefine their identity and assert their rights in American society. 3. Economic opportunities. The booming economy of the 1920s, particularly in northern cities, provided job opportunities for African Americans in industries like manufacturing, which attracted more people to urban areas like Harlem. 4. Rise of African American intellectualism. African American leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois promoted education and artistic expression as tools for fighting racial inequality, encouraging Black writers, artists, and thinkers to share their voices and ideas. 5. Cultural exchange. Harlem was home to a diverse population of immigrants and African Americans, which fostered a vibrant environment of cultural exchange, blending African, Caribbean, and American traditions in art, music, and literature. These factors, combined with growing support for racial equality and civil rights, fueled the Harlem Renaissance as a cultural and intellectual explosion. Key figures of the Harlem Renaissance. Langston Hughes, a poet and writer, Hughes is one of the most famous figures of the Harlem Renaissance. His poems like The Negro Speaks of Rivers and I, too, captured the spirit of the movement, celebrating African American life and challenging racial stereotypes. Louis Armstrong, another key figure in jazz, Armstrong was a trumpeter and singer who became one of the most influential musicians in history. His unique style and improvisation skills made him a legend. The impact of the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance was a social and political movement that challenged negative stereotypes of African Americans, highlighting their cultural richness. It laid the groundwork for the civil rights movement, inspiring future generations to fight for equality and justice. Through literature, music, and art, it shaped African American identity and cultural pride. Rediscovery and celebration of African heritage. Before the Harlem Renaissance, African American culture was often marginalized and devalued in mainstream American society. The Renaissance marked a significant shift as artists, writers, and musicians began to embrace and celebrate their African heritage. This rediscovery of African roots helped African Americans to build a positive cultural identity, rooted in their history and traditions. By incorporating elements of African culture into their art, they created a unique African American cultural identity that was distinct and proud. Challenging stereotypes. The Harlem Renaissance had a tremendous influence because it dispelled long-standing, unfavorable perceptions about African Americans. African American writers, musicians, and visual artists conveyed the richness and variety of Black existence via their works in literature, music, and other media, departing from the stereotypes that were prevalent in those days. African American life was vividly and nuancedly portrayed by writers such as Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes, who highlighted both the joys and the challenges of their communities. Through their works, African Americans were shown as completely human beings with their own experiences, aspirations, and contributions to society, in contrast to the racist stereotypes that had dominated American culture. Creating a sense of community and solidarity. African Americans' sense of belonging and unity was further aided by the Harlem Renaissance. African Americans from all origins and places gathered in Harlem, which developed into a cultural center, to exchange ideas and work together on artistic endeavors. Having a feeling of collective identity empowered African Americans because it made them feel that they were a part of a bigger movement that aimed to improve society and culture as a whole. Empowerment through art and literature. During the Harlem Renaissance, art and literature empowered African Americans by allowing them to control their image and assert their dignity, especially in a society that often denied basic rights. This gave them a voice and a stronger identity, free from racism and oppression. Laying the foundation for the civil rights movement. The Harlem Renaissance influenced the civil rights movement by instilling pride and self-worth in African Americans. It promoted their cultural heritage and valuable contributions, fostering a resilient collective identity that would later be a powerful force in the fight for equality and justice. The Harlem Renaissance was a transformative period in American history, empowering African Americans to define themselves on their own terms and laying the foundation for civil rights and social justice. It provided a space for cultural expression, challenged harmful stereotypes, and left a legacy of pride, creativity, and resilience.